So, good morning, good night, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are in the world. So good to see everybody here. This is Torah for the Nations, B'nai Noach Connection to Israel. This is Pesach Sherwell coming to you live from Sfat, Israel. So happy to be here. Here is my co-host, Terry Hayes from Tennessee. And right now we have with us Scotty and David and Moella, Chrissy, and Martha. And it's so nice to see everybody. And we're glad you're here. Well, just a minute, let's talk one little 3 or 4 minutes about the world situation. We just finished Independence Day here in Israel. It was kind of a weird Independence Day because nobody could go do anything. Couldn't go to fireworks, couldn't go anywhere. So you did a lot of stuff on TV. And I don't know if those of you that want to go to my Facebook page, there's a very interesting video there of drones that are hooked together, computerized, and they were in the sky making different symbols in the sky. And it's pretty darn cool to watch.
It was. I watched it while I was at lunch today at work. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's amazing. It's amazing what the computer technology is allowing us to do for ourselves, for medicine, and for everybody. And yes, it was awesome. I want to take 1 minute about this. Everybody worrying about getting chipped in the society. I think what the Christians call the mark of the beast or something. Getting a microchip in their body, and everybody's worried about it, and everybody thinks it's, the sign of, let's call him Lucifer or something like that, whoever he is. Be aware of something. We're all chipped right now. Every single one of us. You got a cell phone in your pocket, you're chipped. Everybody knows where you are, who you're talking to. They know every room you go into in your house just as much as if it was under your skin. So people have already agreed to do that. If you have Find My Phone on your is one of the apps on your phone, and it's hooked to your other phones you have, just like you can see where your wife or your kids are, everybody can see where you are. Everybody can hear what you say. Everybody can read what you send. There used to be a watch, smartwatch, same thing, right?
My smartwatch, actually, with these, we went ahead and got these because I like keeping up with my steps. I've been setting myself some goals so I can make sure I walk, further and further. But on the Fitbit, specifically that brand, a couple years ago when they really got out, when they first came out hot and heavy, a lady was proven, she was arrested and sentenced to prison for the murder of her husband, and they used the information from her Fitbit to convict her.
Wow. Yeah, that's like, wow.
She forgot that she had it on, and she said she was in bed asleep at the time. And see, this is tied to my phone, and I can click it and it opens up. And it gives you all the more detail. Like if I wear this when I'm asleep, it'll tell me my sleep pattern when I'm dreaming and all this, and how much real sleep time you have, your wake time, your steps. It tells everything on your app on your phone. And that's what they did, is because she said she was asleep at that time. Her heart rate was up, her steps was, her location. They nailed her just with herself, with her watch. So you're right. I never thought about that. They're already chipped and don't even know it.
Yeah, we're all chipped. Look, when we first got chipped? When they put the GPS systems in the cars and the burglar alarms. Mm-hmm. You know how many divorces happened over that? Yeah. I'm at work, and the wife would call the GPS company that had your car. Where's my husband's car right now? Or the husband would call, where's my wife's car right now? They give them the exact address. It was real easy to check. So today, there was a time when you could take some pretty cool pictures of your kids or wife or husband, and you didn't have to worry about anybody else seeing it. Today, you can't even do that. You know, you have to be very, very careful of what pictures you take, or they end up all over the internet. It's just weird. I mean, I'm not saying inappropriate pictures, but even, you know.
I mean, back in the old days, a lot of people took pictures of their newborn
Right.
as newborn, and
Right.
nobody thought nothing about it.
Yeah, today, hello. Oh, not yet. Okay. Yeah, what people said, it's child porn. You know, come on. I remember taking pictures of my daughters when they were getting their first bath and in a little bassinet and stuff like that. And, you know, they run around the house with their diaper down. It's just cute. They don't like them today, but they're glad I have them. Oh, that's so embarrassing, Danny. I'm glad we didn't have internet back then. But you can't even do those now. You know, you get accused of child porn and all this stuff. Okay, well, society rolls forward. You know, let's see, today's about, let's see, Passover was 20 days ago, more or less 20, 21 days ago. And a lot of people, especially Jewish people, and quite a few people here in Sfat woke up the next morning fully expecting to see the Messiah. Because of everything that went on, and with the virus, and we had to do it like in the very first Passover, everybody at home alone, only with their families, locked in, can't go outside until morning. And in the first, in the plagues during Egypt, that's what happened. You went in your house, you closed your door, you locked it, you didn't worry about nothing, and you just sat and ate your meal, and plague went over. And it affected those it was supposed to affect. So people were really thought that, boom, the Messiah is going to be here. The Moshiach, and which how we say it in Hebrew. And Shira and I were talking about it, and you know, we were disappointed, and you know, I mean, what's going on? All this stuff going on in the world. We're ready. We're ready. We're ready. We want to go on to the next level. And then we started discussing it, and we started reading a little bit. But I found out, or I didn't find out, I just putting all the facts together. What would happen to the people in the world if you just showed up just like that? Poof, I'm here. We wouldn't be able to handle it. A lot of people just wouldn't be able to handle it. It was too sudden. We don't take change like that. We can't just grab it and say, oh, wow, it finally happened. Like we have to do it very slowly. The change has to happen over time. It has to happen in a gradual way so people get used to each step that we're going through as he makes himself more prominently known in this world, and then prepares us for resurrection of the dead and going on to the next level of life. We can't just miraculously pop from the earth and this level of life to the next level of life. The whole change would be so dramatic that a lot of us couldn't handle it. And think about this a minute. We're told when the Messiah is here, there's no more darkness. Darkness goes away. There's only light in the world. That means that sin goes away. Those who need healing get healed. It means that there's no more darkness. That means night and day, because in the next level, we're a level closer to God. His light is so strong that it'll constantly be like daylight. How many people could survive that? It has to be a slow, constant moving towards that direction so that we get used to it. There's this little, I might probably be going to get it wrong, but there's this little example about how do you make frog soup. You put the frog in lukewarm water, you turn the fire on low, you just keep moving the fire up a little bit all the time until it finally makes the soup and the frog doesn't hop out. That's what, it's like a little joke. Well, we're that way. We're human beings. We're used to what we're going through now. Hashem put us here on this level of life, which is the very bottom level of his creation, by the way, to help complete creation and bring us up to the next level of life. And we've been going through this for 5,700 years, plus or minus. And look where we are today. The world has left paganism. It's left a lot of things behind. And we're slowly but surely moving up to a level of holiness that's never been in the world before, but it's a slow move. It goes very slowly, and so far it's taken us, since creation of man, 5,700 years to get here. Almost hate to comment on Cookie Live Frog. Yeah, that's okay. It's just an example that we use in some of the teachings up here in Spot. Hello, Dan. Good
Hi,
to see you.
Pesach. I'm sorry I got back as quickly as I could. You guys just keep going ahead with your broadcast. I will launch onto Facebook and YouTube, and I'll put a post out there real quick. And they won't hear me, and I will break in slowly. And you guys just keep going. I'll say that we're just joining them live in session. And once again, I apologize, but I was told when I took this new position, I had 4 months minimum. And then, of course, once they get you on the payroll, it's like, well, we need you to do this. We need you to do that. And,
Dan, you do not need to apologize. This is this is what happens. It's okay. And you do so much work and you do so much good that it's okay. Believe me, it's okay.
Well, I don't want to stop the tempo, Pesach. Noah Hyde World Center YouTube channel. We just crossed over this morning over the 50,000 view minutes in 28 days, right? And you guys have been a big part of that. You guys have had some successful views. 50,000 view minutes. That's
Wow.
plenty. We get over. We're almost at 6,000 viewers a month. So I just play a little role, try to share what the rabbis want to share and the classes you guys want to put on, and so it's a joy to be able to do it, and I look forward to the day where Scotty can maybe make it happen too.
Good. Looking
Okay, so
forward
I
to
will
that.
silence my mic and I will break in live. Okay.
Okay, go right ahead. Okay, believe me, guys, we're in the Messianic era right now. A lot of us believe he's here now. He's here. We won't see him until it won't drive us out of our heads, some of us, when he just shows up. Think about it. The whole world's afraid of one world government. What does the Messiah bring? One world government. There's going to be a king sitting on the throne. We walk right into a theocracy. Every way we live our life is going to be what Hashem wants. It's not going to be a democracy. There's no voting here. You made your vote when you chose to follow the God of Israel. So if all of a sudden he showed up and says, hey guys, we have a one world government, what's going to happen? People are going to freak out. Really? So it has to happen gradually over time, just like this chip business. People didn't realize when the cars went with the GPS location systems and the burglar alarms, you got chipped. As soon as you bought your first cell phone, you got chipped. Now that you have the smartphone, you're chipped, period. And nobody goes anywhere without their smartphone. Nobody. So, yeah, hold on a minute. But why don't you, if you can mute your mics so that we don't get some feedback here, appreciate it. Okay. It's important that everybody remember you're already chipped. Now, I read an article about this supposed vaccine that they're going to have for COVID, and in it, they want to put a nano chip. In other words, you won't even know what happened. It's just going to vaccinate you. It's going to go right into your body with everything else, and you're chipped. Well, you're already chipped. What difference does it make? So what if they know where I am? So what? There's only one person in control. These people think they can control. It's an illusion. Maybe it makes them feel better. I don't know what. It's just an illusion. Whoa, the way to go, Well, that you're not chipped yet. That's good, but there are very few people like you in the world anymore. But it's I'm seeing all these conspiracy theories and people saying it's a big deep state shadow government. Somebody else is running the world and they're just pulling strings on the heads of state. Well, it's true, but it ain't who they think it is. The Torah teaches us that we are to pray for and respect the leaders of our governments. We're supposed to respect the government laws unless they go against God's word. You may follow them as long as they don't go against God's word. Any laws that go against God's word, you just ignore. And believe me, us Jews are used to doing that in a whole lot of countries all over the world for 3,000 years. We just, any laws that don't fit in, we just don't do. So is there a conspiracy? God's got one great big conspiracy going. All these other people, whatever they think, whatever they say, it really doesn't mean a whole lot. And we have gotten to such a point, me and you, that when anything good we see, we always got to find the bad in it. Whatever we see. Example, I put up a post about we are the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. And it's a little movie, a narrated movie about the Israeli Defense Forces. People actually commented, well, they forgot to mention God. Why did they leave God out of it? I said, it's always good. Find the bad that's in the good. When people put stuff up like that, they are saying, what they're saying is they're ignorant of what goes on in the Israeli Defense Forces. Last night, the Israeli Defense Forces put on a concert. The concert was, it was a DJ and some musicians, and they sang songs. All the songs were about the parents concerned about the kids in the army, the grandparents concerned about the kids in the army, and how God watches over the whole army. Those people that say that forgot to mention God, we carry God in our backpacks. When these guys go out on maneuvers, when they go to war, wherever they go, in their backpacks is their tefillin, their prayer shawl, everything they need, wherever they are in the middle of battle every morning to put on that prayer shawl and tefillin. So people don't know, but they just look for the bad in the good, which is exactly the opposite of what we're taught in Torah, exactly the opposite of what God wants us to do. We're always supposed to find the good within the bad. Even in people, we have to find the good within the bad. And it's an important way to change your thinking. Don't ever think that someone is a bad person. Always look for the good in them. Anything that happens, always look for the unrevealed and the good in it. Because God created the good. And because he created the good, and he created us as thinking, powerful human beings in his image, he gave us the ability to find the good in the bad. But he also gave us the ability to make the bad. And a lot of people make bad, and we know what's going on. Terry, you wanted to say something? Microphone.
There we go.
There we go.
I was, going back to the IDF. I have seen pictures where they have the soldiers who carry the Torah scroll. Like it almost looks like the big packs they used to carry in World War II as the Torah scroll. But I've seen pictures where they've had it laid out on a tank, and while someone read the Torah portion, all the IDF soldiers were standing around.
Yep.
And it's amazing some of the photos of the IDF that we have that I don't understand how anyone can look at the IDF and say that God's not involved. you know, just with human eyes, you can see he is very involved.
Yes, but what they're saying is in the little video, they didn't give credit to God for how list him as one of the participants. Okay, you can look for the bad if you want.
He's, if I remember right, he's not even mentioned in Esther, is he?
Mm.
And how much credit is given there?
We all know that he was in control. And what we see is a series of events that happened that he controlled. And people say, well, this is coincidence. This happened. There are no coincidences. Mm-mm. There's only God incidences. That's it. There's no coincidences, no accidents. Hi, Veronica. Good to see you. Machiel, good to see you. Hilario, Martha, Chrissy, Scotty, Amuela, Dan, yay. Terry and David Helton. It's so good to have you, everybody, with us. And I think we're online now. And we apologize for being a few minutes late, but we're here. And we're always here. You can always find us on our Facebook page or go to our Zoom room. You're welcome to come in the Zoom room if you want. You can find it on B'nai Connection with Israel. There's Gloria. Good to see you. Need to mute mics, though. There you go. Thank you. So we're talking about, what we started talking about was, is the Messiah here or not? The Moshiach. And he is here. He's here in every generation, actually, it tells us. So he's waiting for God's word to tell him, okay, we're going to take another step forward and another step forward. The coming of the Messiah is a stepping up in our Kiddushin, which is one of the Torah portions read this week, Acharei Mot, after death, and then Kiddushin, moving into holiness. As we walk and as we go, that we each day are moving a little teeny bit further up in what we call holiness. What is holiness? Closeness to God. The word Kodesh in Hebrew means sanctified. It means a lot of things, but it starts with a root word that means to dedicate. The infinitive, to dedicate, likadesh. A husband and wife do it, they dedicate themselves to each other when they're under the chuppah. That we dedicate ourselves to God. So that same word, Kodesh, or likadesh, is what we're doing each day, each and every day. And as we move forward, and as we ourselves, each individual gets just a little bit better at doing that. My own back thing is annoying me. There we go. Maybe I never get the lights right. We have to work on ourselves, and we've gotten in the habit of finding fault in other people and not working on ourselves and not seeing the fault in us. Let me explain something a little bit about that. Everybody's heard of the ego. Everybody knows what that is. Well, we also have within us the Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Hatov. Now, how's the best way for me to explain that? In the old cartoons, used to have an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other shoulder. And do this, do this, do this, do this. That's one of them's the Yetzer Hatov, that which produces good. The other one's that which produces bad. In the middle is a little wall. It's called the ego. The ego is different than that which produces bad. The ego is the I. The ego is the animal part of us that wants to be in control of everything the body does and every thought it has. And you and I have a part in us, every single one of us, that's the God part of us. And that God part of us wants also to be able to be heard in your head. And what happens is, let's say, and we've talked about this before, that I get frustrated with my earphones falling out or with somebody, I get frustrated. That starts in my heart, goes up to my head, right up this way through the neck and up to the head. And then the head can do two things with it. Our thinking can do two things with it. Yetzer hara, that which produces evil, says, get frustrated, get angry, pound your fist, yell at somebody, get mad at somebody. And then you allow your animal self, which is your ego, free reign. But what happens, what you're supposed to do and what God wants us to do and what we have to train ourselves to do is when that thought comes up from our heart, that emotion, that negative emotion, up through our neck, into our head, in our head, we're supposed to allow the godly part to say, wait a minute, let's not do this animal reaction. Let's think it over a minute. Let's see what we're going to do. And then the head, when the godly part of you, that which produces good in you, works, what happens is another thought, another emotion comes down into your heart and calms your heart. Now, there's two sides to the heart, the left side and right side. The right side is where it gets the oxygen and everything, and it goes over to the left side and out through your body again. The right side is also where the good or the bad enters into the heart, goes to the left side and gets pumped out to the rest of the body. So if you can capture that Yetzer hara, that bad thing that your heart wants to do, because it's natural, because that's the animal part of us. It's a very programmed in, natural animal thing. Every animal has it. And our bodies are, let's face it, they're animals. We aren't, but our bodies are. They're our vehicle to get us around. So what we have to do is when that emotion comes up into the head, it has to be switched around for something good, go back down into the heart and pumped out to the rest of the body. So it takes practice. It takes work. It's not something that you decide, okay, I'm going to hook up with the God of Israel. And because I'm hooked up with the God of Israel, everything's cured, everything's good. I don't have to worry about anything. Not so. You have to work on it. You see, God created us as these most powerful, powerful individuals. We're higher than the angels. We're just, God made us like him, so we're just below him, and because he created us. And he spoke out and created everything, right? It says it right in the Torah. What's the one thing that God did not speak out, but he created? Think about it. Everybody knows it. Did he speak man into creation? Or did he, with his loving self, create man? He created us.
Yeah, he formed us.
He formed us. He didn't speak us out. He created us from all the different parts of his creation. He put us together with love to be human beings. And so the minute he did that, he raised us up above the other levels of creation, the other animals, everything. He raised us up so that we're higher than they are. Now, we have a choice from there to sink back to the animal level or to keep climbing upward to God's level. So it's really the work that we have to do. He gave us, on the seventh day, he stopped creating. He stopped doing everything. He's still there with everything, but creation wasn't finished on the seventh day, on the sixth day. When you read the story of creation, there's two different parts. And if you listen to Rabbi Goldberg's classes, you know that there wasn't any rain yet. There was dew. Dew is the gift from heaven. It comes down. I can walk outside almost all year round here in Spot, and there's dew on the car, on the benches, everywhere we go, there's dew. But it's not rain. We, as part of God's creation, but also assigned the fact that we're supposed to finishes creation, we're the ones that had to ask for the rain, to grow the crops, to do the things. Once we ask for it and we thank him for it, we have taken another step towards all of creation. We are here to help God as his helpers finish creation. And he left things undone. He left it for us to do. Just like in the Torah, that he gave us a lot of instructions. We didn't know how to do it. And he said, okay, you guys are living it. Figure it out. What would I do? He says. Learn it. We're like apprentices. Just like somebody walks into a woodworking shop and knows nothing about it the day they walk in. They can't start making cabinets and chairs. They have to do an apprenticeship. So they do an apprenticeship, and each time they do something and move a step up, they're better, closer to being a master at what they're doing. Well, that's us, folks. We take a step up in our Kedoshim, in our step up in our dedication to God, a step up in our holiness. And what gets in our way, the worst thing that gets in our way is our ego. Our ego stops us dead. Because as soon as we start with, I think this, or I think it should be that way, when it comes to God's word, the minute you say, I don't agree with what Rambam says or Rashi says, or I don't agree with a lot of stuff, you put yourself above God. You've made an idol out of yourself. And one of the first things we have to do is know God and not worship idols. And people spend a good part of their day worshiping themselves. And they don't even realize it. I gave a challenge on the other day in one of our classes. The challenge was, go through a day without thinking I. Go through a day without saying, well, I think that guy's a bad driver, or I don't like how that lady's hair looks, or I don't. Stop judging people. Get the I out of your life. Try to go through a day with it. It's very hard. It's a very, very hard thing to do. What we're supposed to do is look at things and always find the good, not the bad. Always. We spend so much time. I mean, I'm so sick of the news reports and everything. Whatever good happens in the world, we look for the bad in it, not the good. Why? You know what's happening now, and B'ezrat Hashem, with the help of God, it's all going to be over with just as quickly as it can be, but this virus is going around the world. God didn't put it on us. We put it on ourselves. Some human being did this. Why didn't God, where's God? Why didn't he stop him? Why does it have to happen? Understand, the minute that God steps in and stops somebody from doing evil and the whole world sees it, we lose our free choice. How can that be? Let me give you an example. Let's say God wanted everybody in the world to eat kosher. So somewhere in the world, more than one, somebody was slaughtering a pig, or eating bacon, would get zapped like Nadav and Avihu. With God's fire, boom, you're dead. Now, if somebody told me, I was in this having breakfast in Denny's the other day, and somebody ordered bacon, and as soon as he put it in his mouth, it was like he got fried, poof. He just died. Then what would happen? That would get around. People say, oh, we got to stop eating bacon. What happens? Your free choice disappears. You don't have any choice. If you want to live, you stop eating bacon. Now, we know that's not the way God operates. He doesn't do that. We have an example in the Torah, and Acharei Mot, this Torah portion we're reading this week is after the death of Nadav and Avihu. Why? Because of their zealousness. They got overzealous in their love for God, and tried to do something without asking him, without consulting him. They walked into his Holy of Holies with a mixture of incense that is not what he asked for. And they didn't do it out of pride. Well, I guess they did. They said, well, God, I know what you asked for, but we can do something better. Look how good we can be with what we can do. We love you, and we're so excited that we're going to be high priests. And their love was so overwhelming for God that they went and did something that he didn't ask for. They went and did something in zealousness, in love, in the correct, I mean, heck, aren't we all zealous and in love with God? But they overstepped the boundaries of what they're supposed to do. And that's what happened to them. They wanted to be closer and closer to God. Okay, it happened. They got closer to God. But what we have to do, each one of us, is work on ourselves, get rid of that ego in us, the things that takes offense at things. There's always looking for the negative, and somebody says something to you, maybe they say it in love, and you take it the opposite way because you just happen to be angry at the person at the time. So, yeah, right. I wasn't going to go into that right now about Pinchas and Eliyahu. That's for a later teaching. I just want to focus in on the point that we, you and I, have to think about this every day in everything we do, how we drive our cars, how we talk to people, how we communicate to people, everything. We just have to be very careful that we're always looking for the positive side of life. You know, every time I say that, there's this picture that comes into my head. I think it's from Jungle Book. It was about a bear. And he puts it pretty plainly, how he loves life and how all he needs is the bare necessities of life. Just give me the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. And he just dances through part of the movie that way. And I just fell in love with that song. It's just so cool. Because what I've understood from my years of studying about Hashem, about God, that he supplies all our needs. We have all our needs. He may not give us all our wants, but he gives us our needs so we can survive. And we don't thank him enough. And when we thank God, we're actually humbling ourselves. We're saying, yes, God, you gave me the paycheck. You gave me the groceries. You gave me the things. It wasn't I. Believe you me, I've been there and done that. During my lifetime, and I was a salesperson, I didn't like to work for salaries because then you're always dependent on someone else for your hourly wage. And you got to keep it, well, I want to raise. So I decided I was going to work on commission. I don't want salaries. Just pay me for what I do. If I sell you something for you, give me my percentage of what I sell. And every month I'd set myself a goal for an income. And I just work till I hit that level for that month. And then if it happened in 10 days in a month or 15 days in a month, I could say the next 15 days I'm taking off. I don't have to work. I very rarely did that. But I always set my goal for a year. And I'll never forget, this is back in the 70s. The first time I set my goal for $100,000 to make. And I worked my fanny off. I mean, day and night. I was working 7 days a week. I didn't take a breather. But at the end of the year, I went over that goal and I had a huge party at my house. I had a band, had a huge bar, everything. Invited everybody I knew. Look how proud I am I did this. It was me. Then I realized years later that it's silly. It wasn't me. I did my work, and I thought I was doing it by myself, but I wasn't. I thought I was accomplishing something on my own that I could be proud of, that I could show people, look what I did. And look at my Rolex watch, which I don't have anymore, that Chevrolet gave me for being one of the top salesmen in the USA. $12,000 watch back then. And I just, all I could think of was how great I am. I didn't give any credit to Hashem. So when I realized I could do nothing without him, I had to humble myself down a little bit. I had to start, and believe me, back then, I didn't have patience for anybody. I used to teach the salesman that I taught them something very important. I said, look at your watch the second hand tick off. You see that? That's gone forever. Every time a second clicks over, you can't get that time back. Don't let anybody waste your time. Don't waste your time. You can't get it back. Get paid for every second. And my goal and my idol was money. And I only had myself as it was me. Me, me, me. And over those years, I collected my toys, collected my homes, had bumper sticker on my car. He who dies with the most toys wins. I was really me-centered. And I realized it wasn't me at all. And I was heading in the wrong direction. It took me another whole lot of years before I got going in the right direction. I got to do something with this lighting. It's really irking me here. See, I'm getting it. I'm letting the negative hit me. There's something positive here. I just got to find it. See how easily you can let your ego, your I get a hold of yourself? It's real easy. So when you think about what's good in everything, then you have raised yourself up a level in that holiness. You're one level up closer to God. Might not be a big one, but it's closer. And sometimes we go up 2 or 3 steps and we end up falling down. We go lower than we were before. And it happens. It can be in many different ways. But it's not a punishment from God. It's not you're going about it the wrong way. It's you tripped over something. It's probably your ego somewhere along the line. So you got to get up, brush yourself off, and start going up the stairs again. But every time you fall down a little bit, there's only one reason for it. So you can pick yourself up and go up higher than you were before you fell. That's the whole reason for it. There is no other reason for it. It's like God's got you on training wheels. You take them off, you fall down, you scrape your knee. Your dad, your father or mother would come over and pick you up, say, okay, that's okay. Let's put the wheels back on for a little bit and practice some more. And you found that you could ride the bike a little bit better. When you got back up, you were a little more conscious of what would it take to tip you over and do something negative. So we're constantly moving forward. And no matter how many times we fell off, we were picked up, we were shown love, and we went up higher than we were before. This is what God does for us. He allows us to do that. He doesn't just punish us and say you're a bad person and all that kind of stuff. We do it to ourselves enough, but God doesn't do it to us. He only shows us how to correct ourselves. The definition of sin in Hebrew, and I know you guys have heard this before, is not what it is in English. If you look up the definition of sin, the word het is essentially has a meaning of missing the mark. You didn't quite get it right. Let's do it again. Now, we can look at it in 2 different ways. We can get up and try to hit the mark, or somebody that thinks they hit the mark every time, they're fooling themselves. I told a story a few weeks ago about the young archer from the village that wanted to learn how to be the best archer in the world, and he was practicing and practicing and practicing. And one day he goes to the edge of the woods and he sees an arrow in a tree, and it's right in the middle of the bullseye. And he looks at it and he's envious. Man, I can't believe, I wish I could do that every time. And so he looked around and he saw another tree. He saw the arrow was right dead smack in the middle of the bullseye. He said, how can somebody do this all the time like that? And he started looking around and he saw another one and another one and another one. Arrow in the tree, right smack dab in the middle of the bullseye. So he walked on a little further and he sees the guy picking up a bow and arrow and going like this with it. He runs up to the guy and says, oh, I'm sorry to disturb you. You're such a great archer. I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to put that arrow in the bullseye every single time. I want to do this. Will you teach me how to do it? And he says, sure, it's easier than you think. He picks up his bow and arrow, shoots an arrow into a tree, picks up his paint can, walks over a tree and paints on the bullseye. So he hits his bullseye every single time because he's the one that puts the bullseye on the tree after he's done what he's done. The boy sat down on the ground and just cried. He says, that's not the way I want to be. I want to be able to hit the mark every time. The archer says, you can't. So what's the point? Just shoot the arrow and go paint your bullseye. This is what most of us do all our lives. We do it to ourselves. Instead of holding up what we do up to what God wants us to do. And he's given the Israelites the 10 commandments, or the 10 things that he said, which are all categories, by the way. And he gave all of mankind, including the Israelites, including the Jews, the 7 categories of how to live their lives. Behavioral guidelines, how to do it, whatever. It's pretty interesting what happens. Under each one of those 7 things, we look at them and read them for the black and white that they say, but that's not all they say. There's a depth to them that only God can give. We can't even begin to think of the depth to each one of them. It's amazing. I just want to read you something here, and I wish I had the link with me to share with you guys, because this is online, and one of us will get it, Terry or Scotty or somebody from Rabbi Goldberg will get it up online. But it's called Brit Shalom, and it's about the 7 Noahide, we call them Noahide, but they're actually 7 universal commandments. It starts out real simple. The creator of the universe singled out the uniqueness of the human species from all created beings. As the Torah says, that Adam was created in the image of God. Whoops, I tried to scroll. I shouldn't have done it. Hang on. Okay, what I have to do is page flip. I want a PDF. Now, we understand the Jewish tradition holds that the Creator sealed a covenant with human beings, all human beings, which primarily includes 7, and the word commandments is used here, known as the Noahide laws. Every person has an obligation to accept the binding validity of the 7 commandments that were commanded to the children of Noah. Every person, every human being, that includes you and me. It doesn't make any difference if we're Jewish, not Jewish, nothing. Now, that means every person, we're obliged to accept the binding validity of these 7 categories or commandments that were commanded to all the children of Noah. Well, guess what? Every one of us is descended from Noah. Now, there's a thing here. Aside from accepting that they're valid, we must actually observe them in practice. Whoever does not accept the 7 Noahide laws and observe them is referred to in rabbinic literature as a goy or a foreigner. They're not part of Israel. Whoever accepts and observes these laws is called a child of Noah. Today we call it Noahide. And you have to accept that these laws, you accept them out of recognition of the truth of the Torah of Moses that was given from God to Moses and then was given to all of mankind. And it was transmitted through the children of Israel. And when you do that, you raise up in your level of holiness to be called a righteous of the nations. And you also receive a portion in the world to come, right along beside us. You're right there with us. Whoever accepts these laws not out of belief in Torah, but as an intellectual or ethical imperative, is called a wise Gentile. In other words, you don't earn the level of holiness that allows you to come to the next level of life. Now, even atheists look at the 7 Noahide laws, and what do they say? Well, okay, I don't believe in God, but I believe in a creator. I mean, there's all kinds of excuses. Or I do these anyway, so I'm a good person. But no, that's not the way it works. Absolutely not the way it works. Each thing as you step forward makes you as a person and your personal relationship with God, not with anybody else, with God, one step closer to Him. And that's an important thing because that's what we all want. We want to be a step closer to God and always keep working on it and get closer and closer. Terry, you want to?
Yeah, can I, where was you reading at in the Brit Shalom? I'm going to try something here, see if I can pull up what you were reading.
Oh, it looks to me like it was on page 9 and 10.
Okay, hold on, let me see.
Chapter 1, actually.
Oh, chapter 1. I have the PDF, but it doesn't have the chapter. Hold on. Oh, it's actually, my PDF starts out with introduction, lesson 2. That's where it actually starts at on the PDF that Rabbi Goldberg shared with us. So,
yeah, let me try something here.
I can pull it up and show you where we're at.
Do you see it? Do you see it now?
I'm going to share screen. Can you see that?
Oh, okay. I was trying to do a share screen at the same time. That's okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, no, that's a little bit, there's been a refinement since then,
Okay.
actually. I have something they call the final version.
Okay.
Let me see if I can do a share screen. I don't know if I can
ahead.
or not. Share screen.
You've got it, as long as you've got it open, the tab open, you should be able to share it.
Yeah, I got the tab open. I said for it to skip. Okay, how are we doing here? You see it? No. Why? Share screen. I got that pushed. I'm sharing screen 1. Oh, come on. Let me try.
I may need to go in my settings. There's some settings I need to change since these updates.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to turn it off now. I can't get it out of my way.
You should just turn off.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Share screen. Yeah, it won't turn off for me. So I don't know. It's okay. You guys still see me, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, it's
okay.
regular. It's a regular screen.
Trying to get rid of the.
You should have a cancel share at the top of your picture.
See, that's what's not showing up. Wait a minute. Maybe it's over here. Let me try it over here. No. Wait a minute. Let me just. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't push this button. Share.
Now we've got. Okay.
Okay. Now.
I see a zoom is what we're seeing.
Okay.
Now we're seeing.
You see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me do this so we can make it a little bigger. There we go.
Oh, who are Noahides? Oh, I've got that section there. Hold on.
All right. This is in a little different format than you have. That's where I was reading from.
Yeah, hold on.
And we're gonna get for you guys. There's a link that I'm going to get for you. You can go in. You can sign up for some courses. There's free courses there, and Rabbi Shirky is um, teaching on this. He does it in Hebrew, so it's a little tough for most people. But I go to his class every 2 weeks. He gives a class on it. But let me go to page 2. Let's see. There we go. Okay, that's chapter 2. That's not what I was looking for. Okay, let me go down. Okay, here's what I was talking about. You see right there?
Right.
You're a wise Gentile, but that doesn't make you, I mean, let's face it, all the things that we're given, and we're going to read in the next paragraph, are logical stuff. Anybody can come to these conclusions, and this is what they are. The Noahide laws are the prohibition of worshiping false gods. First, you have to know what a false god is. The prohibition of cursing God, the prohibition of murder, the prohibition of sexual immorality, the prohibition of robbery, the prohibition of eating a limb from a live animal, and the requirements to establish courts. Now, you notice it says something here. It doesn't say do not worship false gods. It doesn't say do not blaspheme God. It doesn't say do not murder. It's the prohibition of murder. Why does it say that? There, the person in this room, you can't say, well, I don't murder anybody, so I've got that handled. I don't do anything immoral. I got that handled. I don't rob anybody. I got that handled. But we're thinking of the definition of robbery, of stealing from somebody, putting a gun to their head, taking somebody out of a store that they didn't pay for. But we don't really understand the full definition of robbery by God's definition. Even the prohibition of eating a limb from a live animal, who does that? Nobody. Even before today, who did it? What, are you going to cut off a limb and the animal's going to live? What good does it do you? You injure the animal so it dies? What happens to the rest of the meat? What happens to the rest of it? So there's a huge definition going here, and the requirement to establish a court system. Well, I live in the USA, and we got a system of courts, and man, it covers all this, and it's really good, and I'm good. It doesn't. And what it's talking about in the requirement to establish a court system is that just like the Jews have or had the Sanhedrin, which is our court system, we have today still rabbinical courts that we go to, and they tell us what to do and what not to do. If we have an argument between two Jewish people, we can take it to the judges. Once they give us their, not he or she, it has to be more than that. It has to be at least 3 and an uneven number of judges, all the way up to 71. It could be as big as we need it to be, so they can handle everything coming through it. Like the Supreme Court has, what, 5 judges or 7 judges? I don't remember. And they always have a panel of judges. You have a majority opinion and a minority opinion. Well, this is what this is all about. Establish a court system, but the court system is Noahides for Noahides. Because the Noahides know, the sages of the Noahides, which those people are being grown up today by you guys, they're going to come forward soon. You're going to start seeing them raise up. There's going to be Noahides there, and not the self-appointed ones either. Let's understand that very clearly. You remember, there's a story about Jethro and Moses, and Jethro watched Moses judging people all day long. What does it judging mean? Answering questions, making decisions for the people. From morning till night, and the lines were like forever. And Jethro goes to him and says, Moses, you can't do this by yourself. The people are getting impatient. You're going to wear out. They're going to wear out. You have to set up a system. Jethro, who was the king of Midian, then he became the high Cohen of Midian. He also worked for the Pharaoh. He had been in executive positions before. He says, why don't you do this? Why don't you set up people further down the line? make them captains of tens and 50s and hundreds and thousands and 10,000s. You set up these leaders, but you don't appoint them. God told Moses, you don't appoint these people. The people appoint their leaders. A leader doesn't appoint himself. You appoint their leaders. So what happens is the people, it's not one person that gets elected to be in charge either. Because one person his ego can grow real quick. You might have a captain of 10 people, and I might go to that captain, my captain, and say, look, I got a question. Here's the question. And he can give me an answer. He says, you know what? I heard that in the courts they decided X, Y, Z. Or he can say, you know, I don't know. Let's go up to the next level of leadership and see what they say. And it may go all the way up to the very top supreme leaders. There's no supreme leader. There's no Kabbalah. There's no way of controlling people. You have independent people who are wise people. They're people that we're supposed to decide they should be our leader because they don't take bribes. They don't lie. They're good people. They understand what are being said. So that if I go to them or this other guy goes to them, he doesn't look at the other guy and say, oh, you're a better friend of mine, so, or you're richer and you can pay me more. We're supposed to handle that. We've forgotten how to do that, by the way, because of the way leaders are elected in most countries. These people are going to be people just like you and me. They're going to, you go and you present your argument to, or you ask them, and it's this situation, what am I supposed to do? So I don't violate something that God says don't violate, and they'll tell you. We do it all the time. As a matter of fact, it's gotten so intricate with us that rabbis basically handle specialties, just like you have brain surgeons and heart surgeons, and kidney surgeons and liver surgeons and toe doctors and nose doctors. They're specialties and they're specialists in what they do. And what happens is, if you got a problem with your foot, you certainly don't go to ear, nose, and throat guy. You go to a foot guy. Well, that's what we do. We have rabbis that are specialists in certain areas that know and are experienced and have been there, done that. And we go to them and we ask them a question, and they give us an answer. Now, there's two ways we can ask a question. We can go to them and say, what's your opinion on this? Or we can go to them and say, how am I supposed to do this? Now, that's two different questions. If you ask for their opinion, you can take it or leave it. But if you ask them, how am I supposed to do this thing in front of God? And he tells you, that's what you have to do. You can't go to anybody else and ask that question of anybody else. You can go to three rabbis and ask opinions, but once you ask for what we call a Sardine, a judgment, you can't go hunting for another one. And if it doesn't agree with what you like, tough. You went to the judge that's an expert in this. It's like you go to a brain doctor. Right, when someone has something wrong with them, don't they get 2 or 3 opinions from doctors? You can go get opinions. But when you decide on one doctor and say, okay, you're the guy that's going to do my operation, or you're the guy I'm going to follow your treatment, you've locked yourself in, you've made the decision, and that's what we're supposed to do. And you don't necessarily, as a Noahide, as a righteous Gentile, you don't necessarily have to lock yourself into the rabbi that tells you that. You're supposed to lock into your sage that tells you that. Because your sage, your wise person, the people you're going to raise up and you're going to turn to, are people that have been there, done that. Not people that have read all the books and are interpreting it their own way. They're going to be people just like you that have been there and done that. They're people that have gone to the rabbis and learned under them to apply it in a way that affects the Noahites, the righteous Gentiles, not the way it affects the Jew. When you go to a rabbi today and you ask them how to do this or that, they're going to give you from a Jewish perspective. Understand that. because they can't give you any other answer. They have to do it from what they know and what they've learned and where they've been and what they've done. Some of you, men and women listening and learning today, are going to be the kind of person that other people are going to come to and ask questions. You're going to earn the respect of the people. They're going to come to you and want to know how should they do this and how should they do that. And that's what the court of judges for the Noahites, the righteous Gentiles, is supposed to be. Here in Sfat, we have two courthouses. One's the State of Israel courthouse. The other courthouse is what we call the Bet Din, and that's where the rabbis sit. So if I want a judgment from the people that really know the Jewish law, I go there. If I want to know a judgment in a civil thing, I go to the other state-run one, which it's supposed to run under the same laws more or less, but it doesn't. The rabbinical courts are more focused on God's law, and the other courthouse is focused on Israel law. And let me tell you, the state law is not quite exactly the same. You see that in America. The Constitution says this, and the Supreme Court says, well, yeah, but we interpret it this way or that way. And there's a lot of problems with that. A lot of people fall out on different sides, but that's not our topic. The point is, each one of you is responsible to making that step closer to what God wants, not what you want or what you think. Now, there's a lot of Noahide groups out there that are being run like the old home group you used to belong to. What would happen if you went into a home group and whoever's house it was at or whoever's running it said something? You said, wait a minute, I think it's a little bit different. Let's discuss it. Lots of times you heard out of that person's mouth, this is the way it is. You don't like it, there's the door. You want to ask that question? You don't question. You don't like it, there's the door. A lot of Noahide groups are run that way, unfortunately. That's why there's so many of them out there, because everybody has their own opinion about how they should be done. And everybody thinks they're the ones that are right. They don't sit together and say, let's look at what God's opinion is. Let's look at what God wants us to do. Let's get in, let's understand what he's saying, and then let's go forward. It all comes from the way we were taught growing up. I wasn't taught as a Reformed Jew how to read the Torah. Oh, I was taught how to read the Torah. God created the earth in 6 days. Okay, wow, okay, it's black and white, that's what it says. Okay, well, that's what you got to believe then. But those words, there's such a depth to them. There's such a beauty to what happened. When you start studying it, you find out that God spoke and everything was created through his breath, through his words. And those words are still resounding today, or we wouldn't be here. It's happening every second of every day. Who would think of that? I wouldn't have thought of that. So I had to learn it somewhere. Where do I learn it from? Not from my own thoughts. It took me years to understand things, because I'm going back to I'm going back through the sages and what they thought, and the Rabbis and the different people. And when you go and read things, you're taking it's like taking a walk inside of somebody's mind. You're seeing how they think and how they came to the decisions. This person that understands a lot more than I understand, so whatever I think doesn't mean anything. You know, when I first started reading the letters of the Rebbe, and I started reading Tanya, and I started reading a lot of other different things in that area, one day, I was about, 8, 10 months into it, and somebody said, didn't you read da da da? And I said, yeah, I read it. I understand it. He says, what? I said, yeah, I understand. He says, you think you understand. All you're understanding is the words that are going through your mind right now, but there's a depth there you haven't seen yet. So how can you understand it? That person that said that to me is my best friend today. That person showed me how to really get into the depths of what I'm supposed to be doing in my relationship with Hashem. He taught me how to constantly be aware that I don't understand anything. And the more I know, the less I know. And because every time you learn something, it brings up another question. What about this? What about that? What about the other thing? And one of the most important things I learned in my whole life in my study about God was to know what question to ask. Because you can be asking questions all day long and you're not asking the questions that are bringing you into the depth of understanding that you need. You know, there's different stories in the Bible, and one of the things that Gideon, remember him, with 300 guys, and he was told, take him and let him drink, and then choose your 300 guys. And you know what? I forget if the ones that lapped or didn't lap the water. I forget, actually. The point is, the 300 guys, they defeated a whole army. Now, logically, you couldn't do that. And if logically, you know what? Gideon and the golden fleece, right? The story about that. He laid the fleece out. If there's dew on it, I'll do what God says. And it was dew. Then he says, wait a minute, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a coincidence. Okay, I'm going to lay out the fleece again in the morning. If there's no dew on it, I'm going to do what God says. And there was no dew on it. It took a few communications for him to get it straight and to give him the courage to go forward and do what he was supposed to do, even though he was in the minority. And he did it, and he won. You can win. Nobody here's a loser. Everybody's first class up front with God, and they want you to be that way. He wants you to be that way, because that's the most important thing, is you and God. That's what puts you together with the group. That's what puts you into Israel. By turning to the God of Israel, and it doesn't make any difference if you're Jewish or you're not Jewish. If you want everybody to be Jewish, we'd all been created that way, and that had been over with. He doesn't want you to, this is not an evangelical let's convert campaign. This is simply, I want to have a better relationship with you, God says. With you. You get a better relationship with God. I get a better relationship with God. Everybody in this room gets better. As we do it together, we become one group. It happened at Mount Sinai in front of God when the non-Jews and the Jews left Egypt together. There were 6 million Jews. I don't know how many of the other people were there. No, I'm sorry, 3,600,000. If you count families and everything, it comes about 2.5, 3 million people. Plus, the other people weren't Jewish. And when someone pointed out to me that when God talked to Moses, I forgot to bring a cup of water with me. God talked to Moses and said, Moses, bring Israel before me. He was talking about everybody that was there. Didn't make any difference if they were sons of Jacob or not. God put everybody in one group called Israel. Guess what, guys? You're part of that group. Moses, in Deuteronomy, when he's recounting the last 37 days of his life, when he's recounting all the history that happened in the desert and over those 40 years, what does he say to people? I'm talking to those who are with me here today and those who are not with me here today. Well, who's those who are not with Moses in Mount Sinai or getting ready to cross the Jordan? Who was that? That's us. That was the future generations. That's me and you. Moses was talking to us too. Jewish people understand that that's what happened through all the generations. But Moses was speaking out to the world also. So it puts us all together as a group of people that are called Israel, but there are requirements to it. You can't just buy a t-shirt for $10 and say, I am Israel. Don't work. You can't say I love Israel and think that you're part of Israel. See, the whole key is Israel has to know you're part of Israel. Israel has to recognize you as part of Israel. God doesn't say to you, well, you get to choose whether you're part of Israel or not. You have to be recognized by Israel as part of Israel. And when we go through reading the Brit Shalom, you're going to understand and see exactly what's going on. You're going to see why you have to be a part of it. Don't be Jewish. Don't be a wannabe Jew. Want to be who you are, that God created you to be. But you can be a part of Israel. Every single one of you. Okay, anybody have any questions or anything you want to add or subtract or whatever? Discuss? Go ahead, Scotty.
In the position of the Mashiach, it's going to be let's see how I can phrase this question. The Jewish people are going to, reveal's not the word, but do you know what I'm talking about? They're going to be the ones that say, okay, this is the Mashiach. Or is it going to be the whole world going to recognize it at the same time?
That's an excellent question. And it's one I've been asking a long time. But I believe, because it says that the day will come when the whole world will know my name. And the knowledge of me will cover the earth like waters cover the earth. We may be more sensitive to his timing and his coming, and we may sense him more before he actually makes this huge appearance. But the whole world's going to know. We're not going to have to tell anybody who he is. He's going to tell everybody who he is. You're not expected for me to stand up here and say, oh, look there's Joe Schmo. He's the Mashiach. No, because why? You're tuning yourself. By you're working on yourself, you're tuning yourself like an instrument. You strum a guitar, the strings have to be set a certain way to make a certain chord, and it sounds good. But if one string is a little off, it sounds weird. And even somebody that doesn't play an instrument can tell the difference. As you fix yourself, you're tuning yourself to be more receptive to what's going to be happening. You open yourself up more to allow what's being projected, as the only way I can put it, or radiated by God, radiated by the Mashiach. You are more susceptible to receive it. But you can't do that if you're in the way, if you're in between. That's the ego. In the old days, and those guys that ever had a crystal radio will know, that you used to have a little slider on a coil. And the more on mark you got to where the radio wave was, the better it sounded. Then they put on, when they had radios, they had the fine tune button. So you got it on the station and you used to play around with that little fine tune button to get better reception. And you had to really work at it. If you were a ham radio operator, there's so many radio frequencies out there, you had to be able to get into it, find at least the wide part of it, and then narrow it down to where you got the good reception from anywhere in the world to talk to people. Well, this is what we're doing with God. An awareness wakes up inside of us, and then we have to continue fine-tuning ourselves and fine-tuning till we are on the best wave of reception that we can get. And when the Messiah comes, those of us that are on that frequency, we're going to hear it loud and clear. Anybody. Those that are far away will hear a whole bunch of static. Remember all the static used to be in the old radios? You know, that noise. That's what's going to happen. Most cars today, if they have a radio, some don't, they have internet, but if they have a radio and you're driving over a great distance, you'll come into an area and you can program the radio to find the strongest radio signal. And then as you drive away from it, go away from it, it'll find a different radio signal to home in on. We have to tune ourselves to the very fact that we want to be on God's frequency all the time. We don't want static. We want to hear the best we can from God. And the only way to do it is to work on ourselves as individuals. You don't have to fix anybody else. That's not your job. Your job is to fix yourself to the point that from your neshama, your God part, there's a part, since we're all hooked together, every one of us, everybody in the room, everybody listening, we're all hooked together. We think we're separate entities because God allows us to think that, but we're not. We're all part of the one God. We're all hooked into him, and we have wires, spiritual wires that go from one to the other. We're all together. You want to be able to receive these things from him. You want to just keep going on. It's just a great thing. It's a wonderful thing, and we love it. I love it. And since I got back on the right frequency, I feel I really feel good about it, and I get to feel what God has to say for me. I don't know, Terry, Scotty, did that answer your question?
Yes, and can I add to that question?
Yes, you may.
In that positional time of the revealing of the Mashiach, we know that the knowledge of Hashem will cover the world as water covers the sea. And it's hard to believe, but will there be people, even though they know, because the knowledge is there, they reject the Mashiach? And what happens?
Absolutely. There are people, their egos will be so strong in them. Look at Pharaoh. He had God right in front of him doing things. He rejected him anyway. It is said that when the time comes, when the Messiah comes, that the nations will be required once a year to stand before God in Jerusalem. And then it goes on to say, those who don't show up, I will withhold rain from them. That's a death sentence. Look, you want proof about the Messiah and Mashiach and how close he is? Look at the face of everybody in this room. Where were you guys 5 years ago? Where were you 4 years ago, 10 years ago? You have walked closer to God. Something is bringing you, drawing you. Who? Mashiach, that's his job. You've opened yourself up enough to catch some of that radio frequency to bring you closer. And you're going to come closer, and you're going to come closer. And what happens is, when that happens to us, we get a desire in us that other people should come to. Why should they miss out on this? But they can choose to if they wish to miss out on it. They can go their own little merry ways. And I commend anybody that fixes himself enough that it actually affects someone else to come along the same path. Because that's what it takes. It doesn't take convincing debates. It doesn't take logic. It takes you walking close to God, doing what he wants, and that radiates out to God, out to the other people, I mean. And when it radiates to other people, the God side of them picks it up and can use it to help them overcome the ego in that person. Because that's what the God part is trying to do, help them overcome the ego. and so you've allowed your God part, your neshama, the part of you that no matter how we try, we can't bruise, we can't damage, we can't tarnish because it's God there. You've allowed that to open up your life. You've allowed God to open up your life and help you more. And you've acknowledged that you don't need yourself to be in charge. You need yourself only to do the service that God wants you to do. And as soon as you do that, you realize, and so does your ego, well, wait a minute, it's going to fight you. Wait a minute, let's talk about this. Oh yeah, okay, you want to get up pray every morning and say, Modeh Ani, thank you. I'm indebted to you for giving my soul back. You want to do a few things. You want to give some charity. You want to help some. That's good. That's good. Man, you're a great person for doing that. That's all you need to do. You don't have to do anything else. And it tells your ego and it pats your ego and says, look what a good person you are. You can say to yourself you're a good person because you're doing what makes you feel good. We all know that's wrong. We're supposed to know it's wrong. It's the constant battle. When we realize the minute we say, I think this, or I interpret it that way, it really doesn't mean anything in the scheme of things. Solomon called it vanity. And he says everything is vanity, but the word that's used in the Bible, in the Tanakh, is not the word for vanity. It's worse than that. He says everything is nothing. It's just a mist. You think it's there, but it's not there. Now, how's that for self-deception? And I want to tell you something else. The two first brothers in the Bible, one of their names meant exactly that. You think it's there, but it's not there. His name was Abel. How many verses does his name take up in the story about him in the Bible? He's like a little wisp that swam through. But we're supposed to learn from it. It's called Hevel. And I don't know. Every time I start to think something, I say, wait a minute. Everything I'm thinking has been thought before by another human being. It's been tried before by another human being. I don't have anything original, but I have truth. I have God, so I might as well just listen to him. I used to tell people, religions have originality and they have truth. What's original is not truth, and what's truth is not original. It's something to think about. And every religion has that sniff of truth about it, so people in their brains say, oh, I smell the truth here. Yeah, there's a little bit of truth here. Yeah. And then they go on to their original stuff, which really throws you off balance. A lot of us followed that stuff for a lot of years. And it says in Jeremiah that those people are going to come to Jerusalem from the 70 nations and say to Israel, our forefathers have taught us nothing but lies. We want the truth. Zechariah 8:23, is that what it is? 8:23, where it says 10 men from the nations are going to come and grab the hem of a Jewish man, hem of a garment of a Jewish man. It says
Zechariah 8:23.
Zechariah 8:23, thank you. Okie dokie. It says, yeah.
But going back to the Jeremiah 16,
yeah,
it says that our fathers has taught us lies, and it goes right there at the end of it, says, and everything is not. It's kind of like
right.
talking about the vanity issue. Everything was not. It was nothing.
Right.
So it ties right back into what you were saying.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. I forgot about the last part. Thank you for pointing that out. The point is, you grab hold of the hem and you say, we know God's with you. We know God is with you. You guys looking at us today, that are in this room together, have already made that discovery. But making the discovery isn't the big thing. It's carrying where you were in the past with you into that. It's the big thing. Your ego wants to hang on to what it already knows. What it knows is true. I'm just telling you, Mr. Brain, that what I know is true. So let's see how it fits together. And that don't work. There's no connection between what was and what is. No connection. You have to dump what was and start drinking what is. Okay, any other questions, comments, anything anybody wants to bring up? Dan, I don't know if there was any questions in the chat rooms out there or not.
No, sir. It's been fairly quiet because, like I said, I did not advertise knowing I was going to be tied up today. But
That's okay.
we've still got a few people there, and it's always a joy to hear you share.
Thank you. Okay, Terry, anybody else, anything want
Everybody here, well, is saying, well, she knows. I'm pretty sure I shared with you about my brother the other night.
Oh, forgive me, because I got his name sitting right here in front of me that I was supposed to say in the beginning.
No, that's not a problem. Anyhow, he called a while ago. My brother, who's 4 years younger than I am, has been in the hospital now for 2 days. He's had his heart rate jumped up to 227 and didn't know what was going on. And the cardiologist has been like not getting there. Well, they finally got there and they did a cath today and did some blood dyes and everything. He was calling me, he let me know that he has no blockages. He actually has a strong heart. The cardiologist can come back tomorrow and talk to him more about it. Says it's an electrical issue. He says a lot of people have it to where there's some kind of electrical issue that speeds up the heart for some reason, but it's not because of a blockage. And so, and that's some good news. He doesn't have to have a stent or nothing. They were prepared to put a stent in and didn't have to.
That's great news. As a matter of fact, I have a good friend that has the same issue, but his problem is, and it was it ran in his family. The brain gives out these things like they're having mini strokes, like the body's actually going through, and they can find nothing. It's just simply an electrical issue. They can't find where it's coming from, why it's happening. Physically, the guy's in perfect health. He's the same age I am.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. That's why I was off here for a few minutes. He called and was giving me the update and everything. So I was really happy to hear that.
Yeah, that's good. Wow, Hashem should heal him completely from all of that. That's really good. This friend of mine that has it ran in the family. His sister had it, and this was like years ago, 10, 15 years ago. They came up with some kind of new technology to use. And she decided to use it, and from the new technology, she passed. From the new technology, it did something, it caused a blood clot in her brain or something, and from that she passed. But my friend here, about every 4 or 5 weeks, he has to go into the hospital. They monitor him up. He hangs around there for a couple of days, and then comes home. And fortunately, the hospital is like 5 minutes from his house, so it's not like it's a great inconvenience, but it's still an inconvenience to eat hospital food for a few days.
Yeah. Oh, can I say something?
Sure.
I don't know where my background went. Oh, now you have to see my kitchen instead of the good palm trees and stuff. But anyway, like I've kind of always believed what I've always believed. And even though I was involved in some other stuff, but now I think because of what's going on, people are getting like really, trying to hang on to something, like mostly Christians, which I never believed any of that ever. And they knew I never believed that, but now, like my stepmom even hung up on me because she sent me this thing where, I mean, I can't believe it, where there was a child prophet that said tomorrow everything was going to go away, you know. And then I said, well, I don't know about that. But I guess what I'm sensing is that people are, instead of listening to logic and reason, they're like just hanging on to what they have, right? And of course, I'm a bad person, even though none of my beliefs have really changed. But, you know, what kind of advice would anybody give me for that? Because it does get kind of difficult. And then, you know, if the Messiah comes soon, the way they're talking, I don't even think that they would accept it, you know, because of the Christian diatribe. But I think I'm having kind of like a issue with it, because I couldn't believe, even though she's always known, I didn't believe that there was like 3 in 1 from the beginning of time. My stepmom, even when, you know, she said, oh, there was this prophecy, and I was like, are you kidding? You're going to believe that? You know, and then she totally hung up on me today. I don't know. Anyway, I was just like wondering, because it is kind of disturbing, you know, at least part of my family, not all of them. But anyway, okay, I'll mute. I'll try to get my nice background on again.
Okay, that is really a good question, because everybody has problems with that and dealing with family and everything. The best way I can suggest, and maybe Scotty or Terry or somebody else has a better way or can add to this, is you just don't discuss it with them. Because if a person's not ready to hear, they're not ready to hear. It's period. And there's no point in hurting your family relationship by trying to say, you have to believe what I have to believe, and I have to believe what you have to believe. There's no point in doing it. You just don't discuss it with them. There is no debating. There's no logic to convince anybody. It's simply go ahead and let them think what they think. You think what you think, because it becomes down to a battle of egos, you see. It doesn't come down to who's right or wrong about God. It comes down to a battle of egos. I think this, and you should think this, and let me tell you why you should think this. It has nothing to do with God. When the person starts questioning about God, that's when they're ready to hear things, but not before that. So you should not put a monkey wrench. One of the things we're supposed to do is to give honor to our parents. And this goes together with honoring God. So you don't want to cause a monkey wrench between family. Friends is different, but especially family. You don't want them thinking negatively of you because you're debating them all the time, and every time you're trying to tell them how right you are and how wrong they are, it becomes a battle of individual wills and ego. So you forget about it. Because, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've been really good about all that, you know, and I don't think it was about that, but because they believe the 7-year-old child, well, they're not doing any of their social distancing, you know, they're not doing any of that, and they're doing risky behavior that is actually not legal in California. So that was my concern, and also my concern, and whatever people think, I don't know if this is going to be on YouTube or not, but I think we know what's going on with the ranchers and stuff, you know, in the U.S. And so instead of like looking at what's going on in the ground, they're putting their head in the ground and saying like, this 7-year-old kid, this prophet, you know, all these prophecies that nobody ever had any prophecies, but everything's going to be fine, and therefore I could do whatever I want. You know, my dad's like 87, he's not in good health, but they're not doing anything because God's going to cure everything tomorrow. Anyway,
But
That was part of
okay,
it.
but that is their choice. Has nothing to do with you. You shouldn't judge them for it. God gave them free will. God allows them to think that way. Certainly you can. You're not better than God. I'm not better than God. So
Yeah.
what a person wants to think, they may think that. It's up to each individual to do their correction. And the only thing you can do is set an example by the way you live your life and not by what you think. Terry, you want to add something?
Well, I was going to go back to the old adage I know y'all have heard me talk a lot about. That's the Book of Jonah. Sit down and read it. It's for us. It's for the non-Jewish people. God sent a Jewish prophet. The thing about when you read it just in your Bible, you don't get the commentary that's been around for thousands of years from Israel. And what we learn from the sages is that God did not judge Nineveh on their religious beliefs. Not one pagan temple was torn down. Not one pagan practice was changed. What God said, he saw their deeds and he forgave them. What he saw was how they started changing how they treated one another. The sages said the sins of Nineveh was the sins of the flood: violence, robbery, injustice against man. And so it's more important for us not to worry about what others believe, their religious beliefs, affiliations, things that they're saying, oh, they're just let it be water off for the ducks back. I mean, I live in Christianville, Tennessee, right here in the middle of Pentecostalville. And most of my friends and my family member do not know that I do not believe like they do, or in the person that they believe in. I keep that to myself. It's my business. If it comes point to a time that I need to share something, if they're actually truly seeking, then I'll reveal. But majority, 99.99999%, they're not seeking. They've got an agenda behind what they're leaving their questions. So the best thing to do, and it's a hard thing, it's took me a while, but it set me free like you wouldn't believe. It's one of the things that set me the free the most as a Noahide, is not, if God didn't concern himself with the religion of Nineveh, then I'm not going to concern myself with the religion of Tennessee. I'm going to do, I can do more harm by doing wrong to another person than beating them up with the Torah or the 7 laws. You know, just be nice, let it go in one ear. I know they believe in their prophets and stuff. I work with a company who's got a freaking 4-foot square picture of you-know-who on the wall, and I have to walk past it about every other day. And so that's what they believe. You know, I go on. I know where I stand, with the Creator. But it's hard, but take time and don't let what they believe affect you. Just don't discuss it. It's one like don't discuss religion and politics. You pretty much have got to get that way, But it's not their business. It's not your business. But what is your business is how you treat them. And that's what you'll be judged on from Hashem. And like I said, the book of Jonah would be a good sit down and read.
Okay. I think that's good. I mean, I got some computer issues. Okay. I don't have a good background, but I think that's good advice. Interesting thing is I've never changed the way I believe, but now that things are a little more stressful in the world, right? Because I never had any other belief, and everybody knows that, regardless where I was. I have not changed anything. But now, they're putting their beliefs on me, even though I didn't even know what they believed till recently, by the way. So that's a good recommendation. I was just so concerned that people were maybe saying, I don't have to worry. I don't have to not worry, but I don't have to do anything because, which I never even believed in, but, the rapture is going to happen or something else. And then if something else happens, it's like the bad guy. I was like going, oh my gosh, you actually believe that. But I think it was Terry. I appreciate that, what you said, and I'll definitely keep your counsel in mind. Anyway, okay,
All
we'll
right,
get off.
all right. Whatever you think about what they think doesn't mean anything. You may think it does, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Not for them and not for you. That whatever you think about what they think doesn't mean anything in the scheme of things. It's what God thinks about what they think and what you think. And that's between them and God, and you are between you and God. And I want to put this challenge out now to anybody that happens to be listening now at this. We've already been on the air an hour, 45 minutes and all that. But what you may be concerned about their safety, but okay, but if they're not concerned about it, why are you concerned about it? That's up to them. Your safety is your business and their safety is their business. They're way past the stage of look both ways before you go across the street and you get run over.
Yeah. They're
allowed their own opinions now, and God allows it, so you allow it, and you don't let it bother you. It's just that simple. But you can't. I'm going to give a challenge again. Here's your challenge. I want to see if anybody can do this. I myself find it very hard, and I work on it quite a bit. But the more you think about it every day, the better you get at it. Everybody has, I don't know if everybody has a pen and a piece of paper with them at all times every day. But every time you start to use the word I, stop. Don't let it come out of your mouth. Unless it's, I like a cheeseburger, or I like a bacon jerky burger, or I like vanilla ice cream. Anything else, don't use the word I. See how much you can communicate without using the word I. It's an important thing to do, because that's your ego speaking. Every time you hear the I come out of your mouth, that is the ego speaking. We're supposed to say to ourselves, this is what God wants. So I'm going to do what God wants. You can say the I that way. But you have to stop judging other people. You have to start thinking about other people, because God allows all of this to happen. And believe me, if he truly wanted to knock people over for idolatry, you think there'd be any Christians in the world today? You think there'd be any Muslims in the world today? You think there'd be any Dalai Lamas in the world today? There wouldn't be. God allows. So we have to allow. Our opinion means nothing. It means something to us, but it doesn't mean anything to the rest of the world. So we have to learn how to communicate without using the word I. The more we can do that, the closer we are to God's will, not our own will, not the same way we think. I've been talking to people for 20 years about the ego. And people say, yeah, I got it. I understand. I know now. I can tell you all about the ego now. Well, no, they can't. When they tell me that, they can't tell me anything. It's something that it's so hard to do. It's hard for me to do. I work on it every single day. And when I said to my teacher and friend years ago, oh yeah, I understand that. Oh yeah, I know what this is all about now. He looked at me and says, you know, you understand? You think you do. But that's only your own opinion about yourself. God certainly doesn't have that opinion of you, or you wouldn't still be learning.
Yeah.
So you have to eliminate the word I out of the vocabulary as much as possible. Matter of fact, if you really want to know how much it influences how you speak, keep a pencil and paper with you something with you. And every time you say the word I, put a mark on a piece of paper. See how many times you say it during the day. Every time you do it, you're worshiping yourself. You're not worshiping God. Unless it has to do with, there's a Hebrew phrase I learned a long time ago, about 50 years ago. In Hebrew, it says, Im tam vareach ein ma lidvakeach. What does it mean? With taste and smell, you can't argue with anybody. Some people like the way a skunk smells. I don't. I love the way a farm smells. I love the way a barn smells. I love the way a horse stable smells. A lot of people say, ooh, that stinks. I can't argue with them. Those smells to me bring back memories, great memories. So they're like, it's like walking into a house and smelling somebody cooking fried chicken. It's just a good memory. It's a memory of the first time I drank milk from the faucet, from the live thing. And when I was helping some friends out on a farm, it's just all these things come, and it depends on our outlook. But we can't convince somebody, if somebody that grew up in an area where there might have been a bunch of skunks or something, and every night, and I grew up in an area like that where at night you'd be sound asleep, and all of a sudden you'd smell that smell come wafting through the house. And it got to the point where it was okay. I lived, I don't know, 500 yards, no less, maybe 150, 200 yards from a railroad track. When we first moved in there, those trains used to wake me up 3-4 times a night coming through, blowing their whistles at the crossing, coming full speed through. After I was there about 4 or 5 months, if it didn't come through, it woke me up. I got so used to the train sounds. And when I moved away from there, it was weird. It felt weird not to have those trains coming by. So other people would have said, how can you live in a house like that? No. And you've all seen in movies and other places, people live next to the subway in New York City, and every time they come by, the house goes, brrr. People get used to that. They like it. Okay, what happened here? Oh, okay, I got it. I'm okay, right? You want to say something, Scotty?
I don't want you to lose your train of thought. Was you going to say?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to, I've been sitting here debating whether to throw this in.
I'll catch it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll catch it. Go ahead. Throw it.
I don't know about anybody else, but I've got this family member that just knows how to push my buttons. And every time, I got to pick my words wisely because my son is here and he's going to know who I'm talking about. But how it started was I began to reveal my new position with Hashem. And boy, that person just started. And now for the past 4 or 5 years, every time we meet, they just continuously try to go out of their way to push my buttons. So now it hadn't been here over the past year, but it got to the point where, it was just, I was losing sleep over it. And I called my dad up early one morning looking for sympathy. And I said, I don't know what let me tell you. And he says, well, I've seen it. I understand. So here I'm putting out all this information, and he says, well, look, first of all, 10 years ago, if anybody would have come up to you and told you what you're telling them, you would be doing the same thing they're doing to you. Because I was in that same position. But here's what I said. I said, but she knows how to push. Oh, but they know how to push my buttons. And he said, you make it very easy because you lay your buttons on the table to be pushed. What you need to do is remove your buttons and it won't bother you no matter what they say. You need to you're the one with the problem, not them. So I just thought I'd throw that in.
Oh, that is such good advice. When someone pushes your buttons, you're the problem, not them. That is so true. So true. We talked about this, I think, sometime during the week, this past week. You all have that one person at work that wants to be your friend, and you don't want to be annoyed by him. We all have that one person all through your life that's wanted to be your friend and constantly wants to be your friend, and you're always annoyed by that person. And you get upset over it. But they're not doing the upsetting. You're doing the upsetting. You're allowing it to happen. And what is allowing it to happen? Your heart sends that emotional message to the brain. And your brain says, check, yeah, let's get angry. Let's get upset. You do it to yourself. When someone pushes your button, you're doing it. They're not doing it. Now, they may know what it does to you when they do these certain things, and that's okay. You taught them. So it's the only thing you can do is take away the toy by not getting upset. You know, I learned something about kids. Kids, as they're growing up, when they get 3, 4 years old, even 5, they do things on purpose to push their parents' buttons. They like the reaction. They like to make a parent angry or upset or even laugh, whatever it is, the button. But if they constantly are doing behavior to get you upset, the minute you stop being upset about the behavior, they'll stop doing the behavior because it doesn't work anymore. They'll realize it may take them a year, it may take 2 years, but it just doesn't work anymore. There's no reaction when you push that button. You flip the switch and nothing happens. The light doesn't come on. So we're the ones that allow ourselves to be upset. We're the ones that allow ourselves to think that we're constantly judging other people. And when we try to change their minds about something, if they're not ready to hear it, they're going to want to push all your buttons. And I love that. You put the buttons on the table. What a smart man he is. Because that's a great way of explaining it. We've done it ourselves. I think we're about out of time, unless somebody else wants to bring something up. Now, remember, this coming week, I'm only going to be on at 10 o'clock on Sunday night, right? Yeah, Sunday night, 10 o'clock. Not Monday and Tuesday. That's on our Torah for the Nations channel. And next week, 8 p.m., we're going to be here at the NWC, Northern World Conference. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye, Chrissy. Thanks for coming in. And we want to encourage everybody to get a hold of us. And if you have questions or you have something you'd like to say or anything like that, get a hold of us. Let's talk. Let's be the community we're supposed to be for God. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I just was helping to wind it down. It's been a wonderful class, but I think exactly what you're saying here right now. I mean, be a community, and this is what I believe the Noah High World Center is trying to do, especially with the social media. I mean, the idea is to just, put the feelers out there, have several rabbis out there that do have the time to meet, converse, answer questions. But it's groups like this where they're actually meeting in a Zoom meeting. They have time to talk, bring their feelings out. That's what makes a group. Yeah, I know it's very difficult to broadcast some sensitive material when people are going through personal things. But I really, I can relate with Scotty talking about having buttons pushed. I mean, I got family members the same way. I mean, former Christian associates and things of that nature. The point is, Hashem brings us peace, and community is good for that piece, being with like-minded people, and I really do appreciate what you're doing. So you're good for next Wednesday. I am tentatively good. From me to you, I will always do a broadcast or put out a little poster the night before at least, and we usually get a better crowd. I didn't last night because, I kind of got squeezed into and pre-booked, and so hopefully my schedule doesn't get too tight, and we can still keep going, because the Ohio World Series, like I said, they're getting thousands and thousands of views a month, and it's not myself. It's not like you talked about when you were in the auto industry about self. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about any one of us. It's about all of us together, right, as a community. And I think you guys are just doing some wonderful things with that. Any final words then before we wind it down, and we'll aim for next week as well, same time?
Yeah, I just want to invite as many people as possible to come. While you're broadcasting on the YouTube channel for that, and on Facebook, I still don't know how you do both at the same time. But we're going to try to also put it through the Torah for the Nations channel, also on YouTube, and we're going to put it on Facebook. Terry can do it from his end. So we're going to try to hit as many people as possible. And we invite people to visit us at B'nai Noach Connection to Israel on Facebook, Torah for the Nations on Facebook, Pesach Sherbo on Facebook. Let's talk.